Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and it's the Casey Anthony trial and the next defence witness, which is Lee Anthony. So we're going back to when he used the Pontiac Sunfire, and he had it from the year 2000 until early 2005. And then Byers asked Lee if there were stains in the car when he used it, and he says there were a few stains. He specifically remembers there being 3 stains, and Lee points them out roughly on this photo. He's then asked if these stains were there when the car was purchased, and he says as far as he can remember, yes. And he says he probably made other stains himself, but he specifically remembers those 3. Lee says he first noticed that Casey was pregnant in mid to early 2005, and Lee was living at home at this point. He noticed one night when he was waiting for Casey to come out of the bathroom, and as she walked past, he noticed her belly. He remembers making a comment to her like, "What the hell is that?" and Casey kinda waved him off. He says he saw his mum a couple of days later and asked her if Casey was pregnant, but we don't find the outcome of that because it's just swiftly moved on. A while later, Casey picked Lee up from the airport, and her belly was to the point where Lee knew it was more than her just putting on weight, but he didn't speak to his mother or father about it. So, now we move on to a bit of a gripe that Lee has with his parents. So, when Kaylee was born, Lee didn't go to the hospital to see her because he was a little hurt and just didn't want to be there. He is asked why he was hurt and by who. At this point, both Lee and Casey are upset, and he says he was very angry at Cindy and also at Casey and everyone in general, really.
I'm sorry. I was very angry at my mom, and I was also angry at my sister.
Because they didn't want to include him and they didn't find it important enough to tell him, especially after he had already asked. So obviously he'd been asking and nobody was telling him anything. So the cross-examination. They start with the stains in the trunk of the car, and Mr. Ashton points out another stain that's in the trunk. Lee doesn't remember that stain being there when he owned the car, and the car didn't smell when he owned it either. So when the prosecution asked to meet with him to go over some of the questions they would ask him in the trial, Lee refused. Although he had refused Byers in the past, Byers had asked to meet up with Lee prior to his testimony, to do the same as the prosecution wanted him to meet with him for. But Lee says he'd asked to meet with Byers beforehand, so he did meet with Byers, which this does not look good at all. He says he reached out to Byers because the last time he was in court during a break, he sat in with his parents and there was a discussion where information came out where he thought it was important to make sure Byers was aware of it, and then he took it upon himself a few days later to contact him. So Lee did a deposition in 2009, and in a section of this is being shown to Lee with regards to the first time he saw Casey's bump. So we know, as we are watching this, when a deposition is brought up, we know that Lee said something that he didn't say, or he said something totally different back when he gave his deposition. So in his deposition he said that it wasn't really his place to call her out on it. He is asked if he called her out on it. His answer was, "It wasn't really my place. I think if I did, not to her directly. I would have said something to my mum or to a friend of mine, you know." He is told that when his parents found out about the pregnancy, they were very happy about it, and Lee's reply was,
Weren't they? Couldn't tell you, they didn't admit it to me.
Well, is it your...
And as you can tell, I think he's still a bit salty about that. He also says that when he did try and ask about it, he was dismissed and told to let it go, so that's what he did. Mr. Ashton says that his parents were over the top about it all, and Lee says yes, especially afterwards. Even before they were over the top, but Lee stayed out of it. I think there's a bit of resentment here. We now go back to the deposition to find out what he actually said. And in it he says that they, as in George and Cindy, wanted to be over the top. He's asked if they had a baby shower, and Lee says that if he did, he wasn't invited, although he was aware of it. He doesn't believe his girlfriend Mallory wasn't invited either. He felt that there was some things that were being hidden from him, and he wasn't a part of it, so he kept himself away from it. So, back to Lee's deposition, and he was asked why he didn't go to the hospital. Mr. Ashton points out that he didn't cry when he was asked this question back when he gave his deposition, whereas now, when he was asked earlier, he cried. So he's asking what was different between then and now, and basically he says that back then, even though Kaylee's remains had been found, he didn't want to accept that she was dead, but now, you know, he's accepted that fact and it's making him upset. It does not make sense to me at all. I don't believe any of that. And then Mr. Ashton brings up the fact that 6 months before he gave this deposition, Lee attended a memorial service for Kaylee. So yeah, I think Mr. Ashton's got him on that one. So the redirect. We go back to the stain that Mr. Ashton pointed out, and Mr. Ashton said it was a basketball-sized stain, but Lee doesn't see it. It was Cindy who told him to let it go with regards to him asking about Casey's pregnancy, and you know, if you were in Lee's position, you would be majorly pissed off. Lee had also said that his mother wasn't happy about the pregnancy and that Casey would be having a baby out of wedlock. I mean, really? Byers asked Lee if the baby shower happened after Kaylee was born, but Lee can't recall. I don't think he particularly cared. And with regards to why he cried now versus back then when he did his deposition, he says he cried now because the whole emotion of the trial and him not wanting to be there, as well as not wanting his sister, mother and father to be there, and he also did not want to believe that Kaylee was dead, but then whereas now he has accepted it. Nah, don't believe it. The recross. Out of everyone, I mean, this is my opinion, I mean, out of everyone, I really feel bad for Lee the most. I mean, he's just got caught up in it all. I don't even know if he was involved in family stuff that much, and especially when Casey got pregnant, I think, you know, he just got pushed to one side. And now Mr. Ashton's really going at him because Lee can't really remember everything he said in his deposition from 2 years ago. So we do find out that Casey's baby shower was after Kaylee was born. So we bring back Cindy Anthony for a quick one, and the baby shower was supposed to be before Kaylee was born, but she came early, so they postponed it, and Cindy thinks it was around the 27th of August. Cindy is now asked who attended the baby shower, and it was Casey's grandmother's, her aunts, some of Cindy's friends, Jesse's mother, neighbours. Cindy says none of the males were present, so if it was just females, why wasn't Lee's girlfriend invited? So there we go, a lot of family animosity. Like I said, I think there's a lot more behind, you know, with this family dynamic. But like I say, you know, they won't be airing the dirty laundry in the courtroom. So there we go. I'll be back with more and more videos. So until then, bye for now.